Alright, Common Core Algebra 2, we are nearing the end of Chapter 4. We're looking at Section 4.8 now, and this is going to be about solving quadratic equations with something that is called the quadratic formula. So we're just going to apply the quadratic formula in order to solve that quadratic equation. So most importantly, we need to know what is the quadratic formula. Well, it lets us solve for x, so we're going to have x equals in this whole big ugly thing. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over, and that should actually not say 2c, that should say 2a. That's all over 2a right here. Okay. Now, one big thing you'll notice, there's a plus or minus here. This actually is going to tell us two solutions. Okay, one where we add negative b plus this whole big square root all over 2a, and the other where we do negative b minus this whole big square root all over 2a. Now, one other thing I'll add to this is this negative sign in front actually tells us to switch, and that is supposed to be a w, switch the sign. So if b is negative, this negative b becomes positive. If b is positive, then yes, we do have a negative here. Okay, and this is used for, like I already said, to solve a quadratic equation for all variables of x. Now, it's important that we recognize all variables x, because this could give us, like I said, two solutions. Sometimes this would give us one real solution, or we could have no real solutions, zero real solutions. In this case, we would actually have two complex or imaginary solutions. Okay, so we can have two real solutions, one real solution, or no real solutions, zero real solutions, which means we have two imaginary solutions. Okay, so let's talk about how we do this. So to use the quadratic formula, we first need to identify a, b, and c. And then we're going to plug those values into the quadratic formula. So remember, a, b, and c, if we're talking about a quadratic, means we have something that is a x squared plus bx plus c. So a is always in front of x squared, b in front of x, and c is the constant by itself. We're going to plug those in, and this is the order we need to do things in. We're going to simplify under the square root first, so that b squared minus 4ac. We can simplify all of that first, and the denominator, the 2a, first. Everything else we leave alone. And then we want to separate for the plus or minus. So that's where I was talking about. We had that plus or minus solution. We're going to separate it into two solutions or two equations, and then we can finish simplifying for both solutions. So let's see what that looks like. Now, first step, I need to identify a, b, and c, and then I'm going to plug those values in everywhere. So remember, it was negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So it would look like that if we plug everything in. And now we want to simplify the denominator and under that square root. So if I did under that square root, I could plug that whole thing into my calculator at once. And if I did that, I'd end up with 273. Now make sure that you are careful with your signs. In my denominator, I should get negative 12, because 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. Okay, so then after this, what we can do is now actually add a little piece here. We can simplify this square root of 273. So I'm going to have x equals negative 9 plus or minus. If I simplify that, I get about 16.5 all over negative 12 still. And this is where we need to do our two solutions. X equals negative 9 plus 16.5 all over negative 12. And the other one, x equals negative 9 minus 16.5 over a negative 12. Okay, and if we simplify those, so remember we've got parentheses here. We need to do the negative 9 plus 16.5 first. That would give us 7.5 over negative 12, and we can keep simplifying that one. We get x is about negative 0.625. Okay, so that would be one solution. And the other one, if we keep simplifying this one, we'd have negative 25.5 over a negative 12. And simplifying that, we're going to get positive now, sorry, 2.12. So you see in this case we have two real solutions. Okay, and just a quick reminder, now that was one way we solved a quadratic equation. Another way that we solved quadratic equations, remember, we factored, and then we did that zero product property. Okay, so we've talked now about two ways that we have solved quadratic equations. We've done quadratic formula, which was today's video, and we also have talked about factoring and the zero products property. Okay, that is it for this lesson. We will see you next time.